long line of rappers who getting signed. If he in the front, I'ma jump him like, shut up, bitch, I been in line.
Fresh off of No May, let's talk battle rap, France, Program V.
Yes, sir.
We're here to talk about a specific topic that I realized over the weekend.
Uh-huh.
I think we're in an era of battle rap mobility.
Mm-hmm.
And to talk about the topic with us, we have a guest, friend of the show, Red Flag editorial from Battlerap.com, Penultimate. Red Flag, welcome to the show once again.
Thank you for having me once again, sir.
Welcome back.
How are you doing, man? How was your weekend? Eventful?
Good. Had a restful weekend to watch the pay-per-view finally. Been working like crazy this month. Way behind on writing for my next battle. All that stressful shit, but weekend was much needed, so that was good.
How did you watch the pay-per-view? Just home with your boys? What was your setup like?
I watched it in the comfort of complete solitude in my apartment.
That's great.
Oh, man.
That's
You're
great.
Exactly what I need. That didn't stop me from drinking a lot, so it was great.
You don't miss any bar like that, ever.
Right. Facts.
And then when the 401 boys come and block the pay-per-view and you got to refresh.
We ain't seen them dudes in a minute.
You don't got to be embarrassed in front of your friends. Be like, oh, I'm sorry, guys. Just let me refresh this.
Yeah, they don't understand that. They're like, what the fuck is this? Like, because a lot of times I get people to watch battle rap that don't really watch battle rap like that. And, like, at the slightest sign of, like, unprofessionalism, they get so pissed.
They're out of
like, yo, y'all don't understand. It's
like, you pay $50 for a stream that's cutting off. There's streams of video games of millions of people.
Crazy,
all that good stuff. So like,
so true. Well, it was a good stream though. Like I had to refresh, I think, twice, but other than that, solid.
Definitely a better stream than most.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
Let me open up this subject. So I was reflecting on No Mate, right? Once we got a big announcement on Friday. The announcement was Loso is debuting on URL. He's having a PG battle on the Gnome stage in a brand new market in a venue bigger than Irving Plaza with a crowd about maybe 1,500 people. I stopped to think to myself. I said, okay. And before Loso did his PG, everybody kept saying, give Loso a PG like we gave B-Dot. And I kept thinking to myself, what does that mean? Right?
Right. And
I stopped to think also about Twork. He did his Proving Ground essentially on Born Legacy 3. So these guys are kind of ushering in a new era where we're in like battle rap mobility, where your talents can leverage you in your admission into certain leagues.
Yep.
And what I like about it is it's kind of like they skip the line, but they come with certain credentials that like before coming into like the platform, and it's exercising you like, wow, they can translate well, you know?
Yo, how is this my second time battling in New York? And I ain't touched the stage that matters yet. Well, that's because that vision's not me. See, I just figured that I could make the roster or become Ray for Austin. You know, skip a PG. Boy, as soon as I got the...
Yeah, definitely that. I think what has a lot to do with how we, like, perceive it, too. It seems silly, but, like, is it really a PG when you're opening up Gnome? Like, that's just URL's way of saying, listen, we're not fully endorsing Loso right now. We're giving him this big-ass battle that, like, a few years ago, nobody ever would have called a P. But we're putting the two letters after it to let you know, like, you know, this is not us putting Loso on the roster. This is him proving himself just in a really big setting. And to your point, I think that's them just basically saying, like, hey, we trust a few of these guys who come from having their own diehard fan bases in whatever scene, to where it gets to the point where people are like, we don't want to see them do a PG. So URL goes, okay, so we'll give them a big opportunity, but then we'll just put PG after it. Yeah?
Yeah, I think it's also a way to, like, kind of condition the fans to accept someone who they, you know, handpicked as their marquee lottery pick. It's like, hey, you know, we're going to put this guy out in front of you. You know, we expect you. We think that you should like him, you know what I mean? And we want you to get used to seeing him on a big stage. So if you see him back up here real fast, it's not like you're not accustomed to seeing him up there, you know what I mean? As opposed to some other guys who they feel still have to work on their craft like that, you know?
Facts, I agree. I was doing some facts searching, some data, some analytics, some statistics,
some battle rap analytics.
Because we don't got much battle rap analytics besides battle rap stats.
Right.
I was thinking to myself about, okay, these three guys did a PG opening up a main stage card. Like, Born Legacy 3 was headlined by Rum Nitty and Ill Will, who at the time I guess they were still big, but they definitely got bigger now than at that time period. B-Dot opened up a card for Tay-Rock and Disaster. It doesn't get much better than that.
That's huge.
And Loso opened up a card for Search for Turn. Like, these guys have stars they're opening up cards for, so that's big. I thought about a bunch of the other PGs that graduated from the PGs, hit the main stage over the last maybe 2 years. I'll say names of people that battled 2018. You got like Mike P, Rada, Jerry West, Jack Boy, Gluezy, Chef Trez, Geechee, R Streets, who was the #1 prospect of PGs before his Danger Zone battle. Right. Snake Eyes. Interestingly enough, right, all of these guys coming into it, none of them came in with 1 million views. Some guys, it took some guys longer than others. Some, like Mike P, had 8 battles, 700,000 views before his PG. Rada had 5 battles, 108K views before his PG. Snake Eyes had 3 battles and 800K views before his PG, or 80K views for his PG, I should say. So, like, the pacing is different for these guys, but when you place them on a big card, the elevation just rises. You don't get placed there unless your talent can withstand it,
That's a fact. That's a fact. And let's face it also, there was definitely like a sort of a passive-aggressive back and forth between, like, just using Loso as an example, right? There's somebody who's already amassed, without any URL appearance at all, so many fans who are already, like, ready to give their diehard opinions at the drop of a hat about, like, what he should and shouldn't do. And then that PG label again starts becoming kind of a weird symbol of, like, okay, but you gotta lower yourself to the rookie league. And I still think that, like, this resolution, although it seems a little goofy, it's what makes sense, still gets to be like, he did a PG, and he's like, yeah, well, would you turn down opening up third versus Rum Nitty? It's kind of like everybody wins. And like you were saying before, it gives the perfect platform for anybody who has enough drive to cross over to URL and no questions asked, like these 3 examples you gave already. I think it makes perfect sense. But it's a good way to just appease people who want to say, oh, we just got to do a PG. Sorry. It's out the way now. It just happens to be on a giant fucking stage that looks nothing like a PG.
I think
any Black Star.
I think it's interesting because Twork set the blueprint for, I guess, like this structure. If you kind of like want to relate it to basketball, you can think all the way to like 2008 Boston Celtics big team, the big 3. They started the big 3 because then you got the Miami big 3, then you get all the other big 3s coming out in the West, and the Cavaliers and the Warriors, and this goes on, right? He kind of started that because when you look at Twork's analytics kind of before touching URL, 12 battles, 330,000 views. It's kind of similar to everybody above him, but because of where he was placed for his PG, it totally changed the landscape of his career. Then you think of B-Dot before his PG battle. He had 12 battles. No, he had 10 battles actually. 10 battles, and he had already 1.8 million views coming into it.
He was. I mean, that should have been a better example of, like, who people would say it was ridiculous to do a PG. But then, when it gets down to it, it doesn't even matter. Like you say, it's this amazing opportunity that they're getting. Who cares what the label is? People aren't even going to remember that. In fact, people will look back at it and be confused and be like, that wasn't a PG, it was on this card. People will be like, no, it was a PG. But yeah, the game is open now. Anybody can do that. It used to be, I think they used to confuse people more, but now, like, what the process should be. But now we see how easy it is. Well, it ain't easy. It's not going to be easy to get on URL. Right. But for these dudes who do want to make that transition, who do have a diehard fan base already, nothing's really stopping you now unless you're going to let 2 letters change your mind.
I mean, also, too, for Loso, like, this was a grand opportunity because you got to figure to open it up, especially on the YouTube channel, because that's where you're going to have the most eyes at all times. Because if you pay for the pay-per-view, of course you're going to tune in for the free battle on the YouTube, and if you're not going to pay for the pay-per-view, you're still going to tune into the YouTube battle. So he potentially had the most eyes on him that entire night. You know what I mean? So for him, it's like, hell no, you're not turning this one down.
Right.
And I think he made the most out of the opportunity.
mind you, he also said something about, I don't really know the details of like the situation, but he had a PG lined up. I forget again too, but it was on like one of those smaller events, like one of those DMV events or something. And I saw somebody say to him on Twitter, they're like, "Oh, so you ducked so and so, and now you're taking Scotty instead?" And he was like, "Well, since you want to compare it that way, like you're comparing what was going to be a tiny room to like this giant venue in Houston against the hometown hero. Like obviously that was the right choice."
Absolutely.
And that don't
I think the
sound
name
like
was
no
Newborn.
PG
I think.
Was it?
Yeah, that's what I heard floating around.
Wow.
I want to say like it was like R Streets or something. I could be totally making that up.
R Streets was in there too. He was in the conversation.
Okay. Yeah.
And we seen what happened there, so that would have been great.
Yeah, and regardless of what the details are, like, that's a fair point. If you ever find yourself in the position where you're quote-unquote PG is to open up a card like that in a room like that, like, you'd be silly not to take that.
Do we consider already Traffic a main stage card? I think Traffic
Absolutely.
3. Traffic 3 earned the spot
it sure
there.
looks like one on paper. Goddamn.
And so, absolutely. And then when you think of B-Dot's PG, it was a surprise battle, though. Twork was a surprise battle, too, but Loso got a trailer.
Hold on, was Twork versus Dougie a surprise battle? That was his PG, right?
Yeah.
That was his debut? That was a surprise battle?
It wasn't on the card?
That was a surprise battle at Born Legacy? Twork versus Dougie?
No, I think that was on the card.
That was on the card.
I remember talking about.
Yeah, I remember when I seen the card, it wasn't on the card.
No, because he had like a whole trailer. Remember, he had a whole trailer.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Because I remember that's why, like, I was like, oh, this dude better be good. Who the hell is he to have a whole trailer? And I've never seen him battle before. And then I saw the battle, and I was like,
I'm strapped in. I'll clap you in a coma. Madness. I can snap it at any moment. I'm balling. I get highlights often, lofting, or now might spark them face shot. I pop eyes. Why I order madness?
all right, like he's cool, but
and I remember there's been trailers prior to that as well. There's a couple trailers prior to that. Like,
I don't ever remember a dude never battling, you know what I'm saying, on URL at all, doing his first PG and getting a trailer in front of every battle.
He did get a lot of scrutiny. He got a lot of scrutiny for it in the beginning, and because of his name too.
Yeah, his name, and they gave him a whole lot of shine before he even got.
That's all we were talking about before the battle. Like I think that was a big part. Like, not to complicate the issue or anything, but at least in my perspective and the people that were right next to me, like, I was definitely sleeping, and they were too. Like, people didn't know who Twork was at that time, and that day, like back then, would definitely throw you. So you just kind of assumed, like, oh, this dude's just like naming himself something crazy. He's probably just about to get up there and like wild out, like do whatever. But then when his shit was as sharp and impactful as it was that shock factor. You know, like, I think like the setting definitely helped a lot, but like that shit would have looked crazy anywhere he did it, just if you didn't know what you were about to see.
Right.
Then I guess now like it's interesting to compare the 3 lanes of Twork, B-Dot, and Loso having their PGs on big cards, and the outcome after the battle. And luckily they all came out victorious. I guess we can all agree to that. Who would you say had the most difficult test?
On paper, or like how it really came out?
I think we could break it down 2 ways. We could say who had the biggest test and who had the best opponent. Okay,
I think like, damn, it's difficult. I think like Twork knew what he had to do, right? Like Dougie was on fire back then. Twork still knew, like, if he just had an explosive performance and like didn't fuck up too much. He actually did flip up like kind of a lot, but it didn't really matter that much at the end. He kind of knew what he had to do. I think like B-Dot versus Emerson Kennedy. Like, a lot of people don't know Emerson Kennedy like that, but that boy is dangerous.
He's been around for a minute.
He's been around for a while, man.
Yeah,
he's been around for a while.
I think like a lot of people who tuned into that when it was happening, probably the only other time they'd seen him was when he came to New York for a PG versus, I want to say, Jerry West.
Yeah, Jerry West.
Yeah. But Emerson Kennedy, I know B-Dot wasn't sleeping on him, so he knew what he had to do. He had to make like a huge impact at that performance, and what he was going to get outshine was just like how animated and dope like EK's performance is. But then Loso, like on paper, Loso had the hardest test. Like literally the hometown hero. Like there was probably nobody else there that like Houston wanted to see win more than that on paper. You know, you could kind of tell in the battle, no shade, but they were definitely excited to see him in that position.
I don't even think the competition of Scotty was the biggest test. I think
Emerson Ketty was the best opponent out of all three.
Right, but I think the debut in a completely different state that URL has never been in, you're not from that state, and you're facing the hometown hero, and there's like 13, 14, 1,500 people in the house.
Bigger audience than the other two.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And you have to set the tone for the night. That's a lot of pressure, man. I mean, B-Dot's in his backyard where people love him already.
Not to mention,
you know what I mean?
Not to mention that there was a lot of controversy just 4 months ago about Loso. We will ever even see Loso on URL, right. And people were saying his style wouldn't translate. He's overrated, et cetera, et cetera. So he had that to kind of prove too. Yeah. Like remember when we talked about the Street Hymns and Luke Castro battle. Like Street Hymns had to win more than just for himself, but for bullpen as well. Loso had to do all of that, like bullpen, John support, the cosign, the arguing, his resume already validating himself. Like there was a lot going into it. Each person had like different obstacles. I guess Twork had like, you could argue Twork had the hardest path because he kind of set the foundation for this method and got the most criticism for it.
Right.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about Loso though is like people were wondering like, oh, is he going to be able to set the tone? Like, is he going to be able to perform for all these people? And I'm thinking, like, of course he is. Like, we know, you should know by now that, like, Loso has no problem getting up there and just, like, delivering his lines really strong and just, like, keeping moving. Like, we should know that from him. Where it's going to get more interesting is, like, now where inevitably he's going to get somebody who's real popular on URL, and that's when people start to really make up their mind. Like, you put somebody who's not a superstar against Loso, like Loso's going to look good every time. And people should expect that by now. Like Loso can open a show. Loso can probably perform any time of the night and like get the crowd to wake up. Like he's that kind of battler. But we'll see what happens when he, like I said, inevitably gets a bigger URL opponent next.
Oddly enough, these three guys don't share similar styles, but their material is very deep. They really craft their rounds and they really like get knowledgeable and they do a lot of research. They know a lot of things. They put their books into it. B-Dot's conscious. Loso has his Christianity. Hey, Twork is pretty good with the Bible bars too.
Yeah, Mama's a preacher.
He's really creative. So it's also
you can tell Twork reads a lot.
Yeah, you can tell for sure. So like there's also something intricate about all three of those guys as well. And I think you can also kind of compare their debuts all because they all have footage prior to that. But you can see the aggression and the switch in their delivery to kind of cater to this crowd. Like, you know what? This crowd has to validate me by round one because, you know, I can't afford to, you know, lose momentum early and gain it back later. I need to set the tone, take my foot off the gas, and accelerate again. That's kind of the narrative for all three of these battles. B-Dot started off punching. We were used to B-Dot being conscious for that. He battled Loso right prior to that. That's a whole story. He battled Verb right prior to that, breaking Verb down. He came to Emerson Kenny punching. He said, I don't want no conscious shit in this battle.
Smart. That was hilarious when I said that. When he said that, I was like, really? You don't want to hear that? Interesting. Okay. It was a good approach, though.
What'd you think of Loso's debut?
Flag?
Oh,
my bad. We lost
phone
him
cut
here.
out for a second.
Oh, my bad.
But I think I heard it the second time.
What'd you think of it?
About Loso's debut?
Yeah, what'd you think of it?
I thought it was good. Like I was saying before, it was pretty much exactly what I expected. Like I knew, especially if he was opening up the card, that he was gonna like, you know, Loso is a real like effective, competent battler. Like he knows how to connect with the crowd. He's got the formula for like how he can pace his lines, and by the time he delivers that, you know, the punch at the end of the 4 or the 8 or whatever it is, like people are ready to bug out. So I pretty much knew he was going to do that. I'd say he did exactly what I thought he was going to do, like, and probably did close to the best he could with like what he was working with there. But you know, I didn't think it was anything like crazy memorable. I just thought it was a real strong performance.
What do you think about him being one of the guys in the lead for champion of the night? I was surprised when I saw him in the head runnings for that. What do you think about that?
I think he like would definitely qualify for it. Like I said, like when I think of that, I think of something like that's a little bit more memorable. Like for me, it would probably be between, and like you usually think like it's kind of more one-sided when that person wins. Like they had a more one-sided battle, and they just overshadowed whoever. So I would think more like Suge and Twork had a really close battle, but Twork's performance was crazy memorable. Like he was, stood up to Suge's aggression. Like they were both all up in each other's face, and like the energy was still like oddly positive between them. And, Twork didn't crumble under pressure at all, and that was the real question there.
Right.
So I would say like he's up there for it. And then like Ill Will like spazzed on Pete out for 3 rounds. But I don't know if that was as memorable. So, something like that. I don't think Loso like really beats to get champion of the night, but I
in a conversation
definitely had a dope performance.
But I mean, to me,
I'm not mad at it.
What made it interesting to me, being that we kind of dive into the numbers and the analytics and stuff like that, it shows you that he is really popular online. Because
Loso, right?
Yeah, because if this is his first battle, right, on URL, you figure there's guys who've been battling on URL forever on that stage that night. So for him to be like one of the top 2 guys in where are these fans? That's a lot of fans jumping on. You know what I'm saying, and voting for him. Like that speaks volumes. And once these people are booking people,
right,
this is what they're looking at. You know what I mean? So he's not going to have any problems getting booked over and over again. You know what I'm saying?
Murder Mook tweeted out, why don't you guys tell me Loso so fire?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, shit. Look at that. I'm like, you should already know that.
Yo, it's hard, man. It's hard to keep up with people,
If Mook
man.
hasn't seen Beat Out and Loso yet, he's going to love that.
Yeah.
But going back to the performance of Loso's debut, it's interesting because, I don't think he is champion just because of certain situations. We'll get into that in another episode. But he's definitely in the conversation. And at the end of the day, first appearance, first debut on Smack, you made history being a PG on Gnome, Between the Pressure, and as a PG battle. So in the that's a victory in itself.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he walked away feeling very victorious.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So overall, now that we have this new era, kind of like 2016 Twork, 2017 Beat Out did his PG at Traffic, 2018 Gnome, Loso's PG. Do you think we're going to see more MCs that just kind of skip this process, or do you think if this is happening with these guys, more people want to find the blueprint to how to skip it?
Yeah, it's like I think it's like what I said before. It's like if you build up that fan base elsewhere, and then like you choose that you want to be on URL, or like people want to see you on URL. URL is always going to say, okay, you got to do a PG. So now, like these dudes are showing that if you can build that up ahead of time, you'll probably get your quote unquote PG in a pretty big opportunity where they can still use your name to sell tickets. URL's smart like that. They're not going to like treat Pat Stay like he's an up-and-comer just because he's never been on URL before,
Sharon, he skipped the PGs because he built his prestige as a rapper. Yeah, on King of the Dot, I thought this was the only league that matters. With Sharon, he got millions of views when we tallied up the amount. Yeah, on King of the Dot, I thought this was the only league that counts. What is this really about?
URL probably would fuck around and get Pat Stay a PG. It doesn't even sound right.
I'm thinking more of the new guy because the 3 guys, Twork, Beat Out, and Loso, all had less than 12 battles.
What's interesting is like the
point being though, like you can make a huge impact off only a few battles. Like B-Dot was damn near famous after like 3 battles. So if you can build a name like that and get people to fuck with you that crazy before you go through any kind of like traditional PG process, yeah, for sure we'll see more people doing that. It'll be dope. Like the bigger events will just have these probably more lit, like quote unquote PGs to open them up.
Right. What's interesting is that with B-Dot and Loso, there was definitely some contention about doing that PG. With Twork, it's like, he got scouted and they were like, hey, this is where we want to debut you at. Right.
Exactly.
The other 2 were like, we don't want to do it at all. You know what I'm saying? Like they're like, we don't want to do the PG, but once URL is like, listen, there's no getting around it. You know what I mean? It's like, and you can build up that little storyline, that little animosity, so it helps with the eyes of the fans. And then when you pop up on that big card and you show and prove, A, it makes them look like geniuses, and then B, it makes you look like a star. and then now we're just ready to accept you as long as you keep on delivering. You know what I mean? So they got a tough job because they have to keep on picking out those that can make that transition. And it's like, you know, us fans, you slip up once and it's like, no, put everybody back.
B-Dot and Loso's in a small class of people that came to URL with already 1 million views total in their catalog before PG. T-Top's in there.
Right.
Great for that. Mike P's almost there, 800K. A couple other guys, man. So, like, that's special to come there already with a fan base, or to come there already with, you know, all these skills and assets. So you say, listen, you don't have to market me. Right. Let's sell this thing together. And
that's always going to be smart to know and just look at the views. Like, maybe that doesn't always end up producing a star, but like probably, you know, they got that many views for a reason usually.
Right. Absolutely, man. So I like this 3-lane theory, man. I like the progress we've seen. These guys skipping the proving grounds, and now I'm looking forward to see
who's the next guy.
Who's the fourth guy?
Oh, who's gonna be the fourth horseman?
Who's gonna be the fourth guy to break that, to get in that club?
Who you think it's gonna be?
I don't know. You gotta think about that.
Yeah, you gotta think about that. You gotta do some research on that one, really.
Yeah, man, because it's got to be a special guy.
Yeah, I mean, you have people like Franchise who kind of like switched over. He did more.
But he already did
something closer to what I did as a PG. But it was still a pretty rapid transition. Shout out to Franchise. He just decided he wanted to be on URL and just went with it. I think he'll still get be on future cards too. So that's dope. But yeah, I don't know. I still think of who's really like being demanded on URL.
Yeah, man. I like that conversation, man, and I like what these guys have done. And now I'm just trying to keep my eyes peeled to see who's the next guy to kind of break through and add on to that, because, you know, 5 years from now when they're arguing their legacies, because all three of these guys can have a legacy in battle rap. Twork is already building one.
They already do.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, like, we're going to give them time. We're going to give them the longevity of time. We're going to give them another 2-3 years and see their full body and their catalog of work. But they're on their way. They're on that pace.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see who's the fourth guy that kind of joins that, because later down the line when they're talking about their careers 5-6 years
that's going to be something to hold over other people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be something to hold over other cats, man. They can say, hey, man, we had a PG one-off. You know what I'm saying? You guys
PG was on. I had a Summer Madness. We need a Summer Madness PG. Let's see who's going to get it.
Oh, yeah, that's a fact. See, that's what's next. That'll be the real
That's the next step.
Can make a whole new gimmick out of that, too. It's like people probably start calling it something different, but like, you know, those big card PGs, they find like whoever's got the biggest buzz is genius.
Oh, man, that'd be crazy. Who is that going to be?
Man, definitely do some brainstorming on that, but Red Flag, man, thanks for your time, brother.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it, my man.
Bro.
Yo, anytime,
Thank you for
man.
having me.
Thank you, my brother. Let's talk battle rap with our man Red Flag. We'll see you soon, my brother. Take care, man.
Take care, bro.
Peace.